The air in Starshelter's main port hung thick with the smell of ozone and smoke. Alarms blared as the crowd scattered, shrieking in panic. Sparks rained from overhead conduits, and a transport crate, torn open by a sudden explosion, lay smoking at the center of the chaos. From its twisted metal frame came a sound unlike anything Terran Voss had ever heard, a low, guttural growl that made the air vibrate. He froze for a heartbeat, his instincts screaming to run. Everyone around him fled, but something deeper than fear held him in place. There, huddled amid the jagged shards of metal and debris, was a creature no one dared approach. Scales like shattered obsidian, eyes glowing a deep, molten red, and wings torn ragged from some long-forgotten battle. Rumor whispered through the space lanes that this was the hated Flame, a dragon feared across the galaxy, a living weapon no one survived near. Yet now it lay trembling, shivering in the cold blue light of the port, alone and wounded. Terran's pulse raced. He had spent his life fixing machines, not facing monsters, but something about the creature's fear mirrored his own, broken, desperate, and needing someone to act. Without thinking, he ducked under a falling support beam, sprinted forward, and threw his engineering toolkit over the crate. With a few swift motions, he patched a short circuit, sparking dangerously near the dragon. Sparks hissed, but the small shield of energy kept the creature from being electrocuted. The dragon flinched, baring teeth that could tear through steel but did not attack. "I'm not here to hurt you," Terran said, his voice shaking. "You're safe. I promise." His words sounded weak even to him, but the dragon's red eyes flickered, almost softening. He caught a tremor in its limbs, a silent plea that no one else dared to answer. Before he could take a breath, soldiers arrived, weapons raised. "Contain it," one shouted. Blasters charged with a blue glow, ready to strike. Terran's gut twisted. One shot and the dragon would die, and with it, any chance to understand why it had survived, why it had come here. He could see the hesitation in the soldiers' eyes. They were trained to kill without question, yet the dragon's gaze fixed on them, intelligent and unsettling. Instinct overrode fear. Terran grabbed a nearby console, hacked it quickly, and fired a pulse from his field generator. The energy arced between him and the dragon, forming a shimmering shield just as the blasters fired. The bolt struck the barrier, crackling and sparking, and for a tense moment, everyone froze. Then the impossible happened. The dragon's chest heaved, and a pulse of bright crimson light shot from its mouth, not fire, but a wave of energy that slammed against the soldiers. Their weapons overloaded, throwing them backward. Panic erupted. Civilians shrieked louder, but Terran barely noticed. He was staring wide-eyed at the creature he had just saved. It was alive, terrifying, yet vulnerable, and for the first time he understood it was not the monster the galaxy had painted it to be. He crouched low, breathing fast. "We need to get you out of here," he said, more to himself than to the dragon. He scanned the debris-strewn port, noting shadows where snipers could appear, automated defense drones that could react at any moment. He could improvise a path, rig some devices, and maybe, just maybe, they could survive together. The dragon lowered its massive head, nostrils flaring, and a strange vibration rolled through the air. Terran froze again. It wasn't aggression. It was a pulse, almost like recognition. His heart pounded. Could it sense him? Could it trust him already? Terran made his choice. He reached out, palm trembling, toward the jagged scales nearest him. The dragon flinched but did not strike. He whispered, "We're going to get through this, together." For the first time, a soft warmth glimmered in its eyes. Not trust, not yet, but curiosity, the same spark that had made Terran move forward when everyone else had fled. Then a deep rumble shook the port. From the shadows, another figure emerged, cloaked and moving silently. Terran's pulse hit his throat. The dragon stiffened. The newcomer didn't approach yet, just watched, a faint hum of energy surrounding them. Something about their presence felt wrong, unnatural. Terran knew immediately, whoever this was, they had not come for diplomacy. He glanced at the dragon, eyes meeting molten red. "We have no choice," he muttered. "Run." And with that, he grabbed a scorched piece of metal, rigged it to detonate as a diversion, and sprinted toward the hangar bay, dragging the dragon along. Sparks and smoke choked the air, alarms blaring louder. Behind them, the cloaked figure advanced, faster than humanly possible, leaving a faint trail of energy in their wake. Terran's mind raced. What was this creature really? Why had the galaxy feared it so much? And who, or what, was now hunting them in the chaos of Starshelter? The dragon growled low, almost warning him, and Terran realized with a sinking feeling that surviving the port was only the beginning. Something far bigger was waiting beyond the next corridor. Something that would challenge everything he thought he knew about courage, intelligence, and the galaxy itself. And as the shadows shifted around them, a sudden flash of crimson light caught his eye, a signal from deep space. A warning? Or an invitation? Terran didn't know. But one thing was certain: nothing would ever be the same again. The hangar bay was dark, littered with crates and broken machinery. Terran's heart pounded as he pushed the massive door closed, sealing it against the chaos outside. Ashen, the dragon, shifted uneasily beside him, its jagged wings scraping the ceiling. Sparks from its wounded body still glowed faintly in the dim light, casting twisted shadows that made it look larger, more terrifying. Terran knew that everyone outside still believed this creature was a monster, a weapon meant to destroy entire fleets. But now he could see something else: fear, confusion, even something like grief. He crouched near a control panel and quickly scavenged parts from the broken drones littering the floor. He didn't have much time. The alarms outside hadn't stopped, and the cloaked figure he'd glimpsed in the port could return at any moment. As he worked, Ashen's eyes followed every movement, glowing faintly. A low hum vibrated through the air as it flexed its claws against the floor. Terran realized it was testing him, seeing if he could keep up, if he was worth trusting. He swallowed hard and focused. "Okay, let's see if we can talk," he muttered, connecting a small transmitter to a jury-rigged console. It emitted a soft pulse, mimicking the vibrations Ashen had shown when it had calmed in the port. For a tense moment, nothing happened. Then the dragon lowered its head, and a flicker of energy ran along its spines. Terran's heart leapt. Small, maybe meaningless, but it was communication. They were learning each other. Suddenly the hangar door shuddered. Footsteps, light but rapid, echoed from outside. Terran froze. Someone was coming, and it wasn't a civilian. He could see the telltale flicker of energy on the floor, the same unnatural hum from the cloaked figure. Ashen growled low, curling its wings around itself like a shield. The sound was low and resonant, vibrating through the metal floor, warning the intruder away. Terran grabbed a spare ion blaster from a storage rack, fingers trembling. "Don't do anything stupid," he whispered to Ashen. "We can't fight everyone." The dragon's eyes met his, molten red in the dim light, and it tilted its head slightly as if acknowledging the plan. Terran had no idea if it understood the words, but he could feel the intelligence behind the gaze, the same intelligence that had stopped it from attacking him in the port. Footsteps stopped. A shadow shifted outside the door. Then a voice, cold and mechanical, contained the creature. "The fugitive human is irrelevant." Terran's stomach dropped. The voice was clearly not fully human. Probably one of the faction's hunting drones, controlled remotely. But that meant the cloaked figure could be much closer than he realized. Without hesitating, Terran triggered a makeshift trap he had been setting while working on the transmitter. A shower of sparks erupted from a row of stacked crates, blinding the sensors outside. Alarms and smoke filled the corridor, and the shadow recoiled. Ashen let out a roar, not of attack but of warning. Terran ducked behind a crate, heart racing, feeling the tremor of its wings brush against his back. The dragon was protecting him. "Good," he muttered. "Now let's see if we can move." He scuttled to a maintenance hatch leading to the lower levels of the hangar. Ashen hesitated but followed, moving with surprising speed despite its injuries. Terran's pulse thundered in his ears. Every step they took could trigger another alarm, another enemy, another fatal encounter. As they descended into the lower tunnels, Terran noticed scratches and scorch marks along the walls, evidence of past struggles no one spoke of. He realized Starshelter wasn't just a hub, it was a battlefield, a place where creatures like Ashen had been hunted for years. And yet no one knew the full story. The galaxy's hatred, its fear, was based on rumors, exaggerations, propaganda. Terran's mind raced. If he could survive this night, maybe he could show them the truth. A sudden vibration shook the tunnel. Terran froze, feeling it through the floor. Ashen's tail flicked sharply, knocking over a pile of debris that landed with a loud crash. Terran's heart leapt. He had never seen the dragon react like that. He ducked instinctively but then realized it wasn't attacking him. The vibration came from the hatch above. The cloaked figure was following them, moving fast, determined. "We need a plan," Terran muttered. He scanned the narrow tunnel, looking for anything he could use. His eyes landed on a panel of energy conduits running along the wall. If he could reroute the power, he might be able to create a short circuit, giving them a chance to escape. It was risky, he could be electrocuted, or worse, the dragon could get hurt. But hesitation wasn't an option. He pulled a wire from his pack, working quickly to connect the conduits. Sparks flew and Ashen's wings spread instinctively, shielding him. The tunnel lit up as a small surge of energy ran along the walls, and then a burst of light knocked the cloaked figure back, giving Terran and Ashen precious seconds. Terran exhaled, adrenaline still surging. Small payoff. They had survived another encounter. But as they moved deeper into the tunnels, Terran sensed something he hadn't before. Ashen was not just reactive. It was studying him, learning. Its glowing eyes followed every action, reading his movements like a strategist. And suddenly Terran realized, this creature could be the key not just to surviving tonight, but to uncovering something far larger than Starshelter. A secret the galaxy had buried, a truth that could change everything. A low rumble echoed through the tunnels. Terran's stomach nodded. Ahead, the passage split into two dark corridors. One led deeper into unknown parts of the station. The other he could see faint red sensors blinking, probably a patrol or automated defense. Ashen shifted nervously beside him, and Terran knew they had no choice. They had to move forward. He whispered almost to himself, "No turning back now." The dragon growled softly, a sound that seemed to agree. Then, from the shadows of the deeper corridor, a sudden sharp flash of crimson light illuminated the tunnel. A signal or a warning Terran couldn't yet understand. And in that instant he realized with a chill that the danger chasing them wasn't just Starshelter, or the cloaked figure, it was far bigger. Something waiting for them outside the station, watching, calculating. Terran swallowed hard. His hands tightened on the blaster. Ashen's wings flexed, and the two of them stepped forward together into the unknown, ready to face whatever came next. A sudden, distant roar echoed back from the port, a roar that sounded eerily like a challenge. Terran's pulse quickened. Whatever was coming, they were not just hiding anymore. They were about to fight. And as the crimson light flickered again, Terran realized, tonight was only the beginning. Terran led Ashen deeper into the labyrinthine tunnels beneath Starshelter, each step echoing against metal walls slick with condensation. The crimson signal from before still pulsed faintly ahead, like a heartbeat he could almost feel in his chest. Ashen moved silently beside him, wings folded but claws scraping lightly on the grated floor. Terran could sense it was tense, alert, watching every shadow with those molten eyes. He knew it trusted him enough to follow, but not yet enough to let down its guard. The tunnels opened into a larger chamber, walls lined with panels and consoles long abandoned. Sparks leapt from broken machinery, casting dancing shadows across the dragon's jagged scales. Terran's pulse quickened. The place had been sealed for decades, yet someone, or something, had accessed it recently. His gut told him they weren't alone. "Stay close," he whispered. Ashen lowered its massive head, eyes fixed on the far corner where a faint blue light glimmered. The signal was coming from there. Terran inched forward, carefully stepping over cables and debris. His mind raced, thinking of contingencies. If the cloaked figure had tracked them this far, it meant their pursuer wasn't just a hunter. It was calculating, patient, precise. The blue light pulsed stronger as they approached. Terran's hand hovered over his blaster, but curiosity burned brighter than fear. The light emanated from a console with a cracked screen, flickering with fragmented data streams. As he stepped closer, his stomach dropped. He recognized the interface. Starshelter's central archives. Someone had broken in recently, extracting data. Ashen growled low, a warning that made Terran pause. Then the pieces fell together. The dragon's strange behavior, the hesitation in the port, the flashes of energy, weren't random. Ashen was not merely a weapon. It had been engineered, modified in ways the galaxy had never acknowledged. The hatred, the fear, the hated flame label, it was propaganda. The dragon's rage had been manufactured to serve someone's agenda. Terran tapped a sequence into the console, bypassing partial security protocols. Streams of encrypted files poured onto his portable device. His eyes widened. The logs detailed experiments, genetic enhancements, and mental conditioning. Ashen wasn't naturally violent. It had been programmed to instill fear, trained to obey and destroy on command. Every story the galaxy had told about it was a lie. A sudden hiss of energy made him whip around. The cloaked figure had appeared at the chamber entrance, standing silent and imposing. Its eyes glowed faintly beneath the hood, unnatural in color, and a ripple of energy ran along its body. "You shouldn't be here, human," it said, voice a mixture of machine and flesh. "That creature is not yours to save." Terran swallowed hard but didn't step back. "It's not a monster," he said firmly, holding up the portable console. "You've been lying to everyone. I'm going to show the galaxy the truth." His words were brash, reckless, but he didn't flinch. Courage burned in his chest like a hot coal. This was no longer just about survival. It was about justice, about proving that intelligence and compassion could overcome centuries of fear. The cloaked figure moved faster than Terran could react, a blur of energy pulses. Ashen's wings snapped open instinctively, knocking over consoles and creating a wall of debris between them. Terran dove behind it, heart hammering. The dragon's growl vibrated through the floor, low and threatening, yet controlled. It wasn't attacking indiscriminately, it was defending. Terran realized the full scope of what he faced. Alone he would be crushed in seconds. But Ashen wasn't just strong, it was clever, adaptive, capable of reading the battlefield. He reached into his pack and threw a small energy pulse device to the side, sending a wave of light that blinded the cloaked figure for a split second. Ashen lunged forward, a controlled burst of force, and the figure staggered, momentarily disrupted. Small victory, but it wasn't enough. Terran bolted toward the data console, fingers flying over keys to secure the files. Sparks jumped from the damaged panel and the room shuddered. Ashen moved beside him, protecting the human, its breath glowing faintly, pulsing like a beacon in the dark. The dragon wasn't just following orders, it had chosen him as its ally. Terran felt a surge of hope he hadn't allowed himself in hours. Maybe they could survive this. Maybe they could expose the truth. The cloaked figure recovered and advanced again, faster, stronger. Terran's mind raced. Every instinct screamed to flee, but he didn't want to run. Not now. He tapped into the console's remaining energy, sending a partial broadcast through the station's communication array. It wouldn't reach the entire galaxy yet, but it could disrupt local systems, alerting others to the faction's lies. The figure froze, energy pulsing around it like a storm. Ashen's tail whipped, knocking over a support beam that fell between them. Terran seized the moment, securing the data and slinging it across his shoulder. "We're done hiding," he shouted, adrenaline coursing through his veins. "We're going to show them the truth." For a brief second, the cloaked figure hesitated, its energy rippling with uncertainty. Terran and Ashen dashed toward a secondary exit, sparks flying, the tunnels alive with danger. But just as relief began to creep in, a deep vibration shook the chamber. A section of wall behind them crumbled, revealing a hidden room filled with strange machines and dormant energy pods. Red lights flickered across the panels. Terran's breath caught. Ashen's eyes narrowed, tail lashing. Whatever had been left here, it wasn't abandoned. It was waiting. And suddenly he realized, this was only the first layer of the secret. The galaxy had feared Ashen for a reason far larger than anyone had known. He swallowed hard, heart hammering, and whispered, This is bigger than us." A low hum began to fill the tunnels, growing louder, resonating with Ashen's energy. The dragon's wings lifted, sensing it too. Terran glanced at the glowing eyes beside him. They were ready. So was he. But what came next was something no human, or dragon, had faced before. And with that, the tunnels trembled again, sending dust and sparks raining down. Terran realized with a cold certainty that their fight, their truth, was just beginning. Terran and Ashen burst through the secondary hatch into a cavernous section of Starshelter rarely used. Industrial scaffolding, maintenance drones half dismantled, and cables snaking like living things along the walls. Sparks hissed from ruptured conduits, casting erratic shadows over Ashen's jagged scales. The dragon's wings flexed, brushing against the metal ceiling, muscles tense and ready. Terran's pulse pounded as he scanned the area. They weren't alone. From the far end, a low rumble echoed, unnatural and mechanical. The cloaked figure had followed them, emerging from the shadows with a flicker of energy that danced across the walls. Behind it, automated drones descended from the rafters, buzzing with lethal precision. Terran's stomach dropped. He realized the faction had not just sent a hunter. They had deployed a small army. Every decision, every second counted now. Ashen's eyes met his, molten red and focused. Terran swallowed. "We can do this," he muttered, more to convince himself than the dragon. "Stick with me." He grabbed a dangling power conduit and yanked it free, exposing sparking wires. A plan formed instantly, risky yes, but it was all they had. As the cloaked figure advanced, Terran connected the wires to a cluster of drones, creating a makeshift EMP trap. Sparks flared and a pulse of energy surged outward, frying the drones midair. The figure recoiled, shaking off the static, but Terran didn't wait. He sprinted forward, leading Ashen through a narrow maintenance corridor that twisted unpredictably. The tunnels were dark, but the dragon's faint glow illuminated the path. "Keep moving," he shouted, dodging falling debris as a ceiling panel gave way. Ashen's tail lashed, knocking over crates and providing cover from automated turrets lining the walls. The dragon's strength and precision were awe-inspiring, but Terran noticed something else: control, intelligence, restraint. It could have destroyed everything in a heartbeat, but it was protecting him, not lashing out blindly. They reached a wider chamber, a control hub overlooking Starshelter's central docks. Here the stakes became immediate. Faction ships were entering the port, hovering outside the force fields, weapons charged. Terran could see the chaos in the port through reinforced observation windows: panicked civilians, soldiers trying to fight off drones, and alarms flashing like frantic heartbeats. One wrong move here would mean hundreds of deaths. Terran's mind raced. He could rig a power surge through the station's conduits, disable the faction ships temporarily, but it would require precise timing and full cooperation from Ashen. The dragon growled softly, wings lifting as if sensing the plan. He took a deep breath. "We do this together," he said. Ashen's head lowered in acknowledgement. No words, no hesitation. They were ready. He sprinted to the main console, dodging sparks and falling beams, and began rerouting energy through the station's power grid. Ashen crouched nearby, its tail sweeping across machinery to prevent drones from advancing. The dragon emitted a low, resonant hum, the sound vibrating through the metal floors and walls. Terran realized it was amplifying the power pulse, turning its body into a living conductor. The cloaked figure struck suddenly, energy arcs snapping from its fingertips toward the console. Terran ducked just in time, sparks igniting a small fire. Ashen roared, a controlled but terrifying sound, lashing with claws that shattered nearby supports. The figure staggered back, but its voice echoed coldly, "You cannot win, human. That creature is nothing without obedience." Terran's hands flew over the console. "It's not obedience. It's trust," he shouted, heart hammering. The words weren't just defiance, they were truth. Ashen reacted instantly, emitting a pulse of heat and light that surged toward the approaching drones and knocked them aside. The figure screamed in frustration, energy crackling uncontrollably around them. With a final push, Terran activated the rerouted power. A wave of electricity shot through the station's conduits, lighting up every panel and corridor. The faction ships outside flickered, weapons offline temporarily, alarms screaming. The human and the dragon had bought precious seconds. Terran allowed himself a fraction of hope. But then the ceiling above them groaned. A massive support beam cracked, crashing down toward the console. Terran dove, pulling Ashen with him. Sparks flew, machinery exploded in showers of fire, but they landed unscathed. The dragon's wings flexed to shield him, molten eyes glowing with focus and calculation. Terran realized then that Ashen wasn't just a weapon or a monster, it was a partner. Together, human ingenuity and dragon strength had turned the tide against impossible odds. The cloaked figure, now staggering, drew a strange device from its chest, a pulsating orb of crimson energy. It aimed at Ashen. Terran felt panic claw at him. If that hit the dragon, all their efforts would be for nothing. Acting on instinct, he grabbed a nearby energy conduit and hurled it, creating a massive arc of electricity that collided with the orb. The resulting explosion sent everyone reeling. When the smoke cleared, the figure was gone, retreating into the shadows, leaving only faint traces of its energy behind. Terran exhaled shakily, eyes sweeping the chamber. Ashen's breathing was heavy but steady. Its tail swept over the wreckage, knocking aside sparks and debris, almost as if inspecting the damage. Terran reached out, placing a hand on the dragon's snout. "We did it, for now." Ashen blinked slowly, molten eyes locking with his, and Terran felt a surge of pride and relief. They had survived together. Through the observation windows, Terran could see Starshelter slowly calming. Civilians were evacuating safely, soldiers regrouping. The chaos outside had been temporarily halted. But as he watched, a flicker of movement caught his eye, a faint signal far above coming from deep space. The cloaked figure's warning had not been idle. Someone or something was waiting for them beyond the station. Terran's jaw tightened. He knew this wasn't over. The fight had been won for now, but the secret they had uncovered, the truth about Ashen, the lies of the galaxy, was only the beginning. Ashen nudged him gently, molten eyes alert, wings flicking as if sensing the danger beyond. He nodded. "I know," he said softly. "We'll face it. Together." A low, distant hum began to resonate through the station, synchronized with Ashen's energy. Terran realized with a chill that what had followed them into Starshelter was just the first wave. Beyond the station, in the silent dark of space, a larger force was already moving. And for the first time, Terran felt the full weight of what lay ahead. They had survived impossible odds, but the galaxy itself was about to demand more. Terran crouched on the edge of the observation platform, chest heaving, eyes fixed on the slowly quieting docks of Starshelter. Ashen's massive body shifted beside him, wings folded but claws still ready, scales shimmering faintly in the dim emergency lights. The dragon exhaled, a low rumble vibrating through the metal floor, as if acknowledging the calm that had returned, for now. Terran ran a hand over its jagged snout. "We made it," he whispered, voice hoarse. "But the galaxy still doesn't know who you really are." The chaos outside had subsided. Civilians were moving carefully through the streets, guided by soldiers and emergency bots. Terran watched them, a pang of guilt mixed with pride twisting in his chest. He had saved Ashen, yes, but also ensured the safety of hundreds of lives, even if only temporarily. He had acted on instinct, on courage, and on empathy, and the results were real. The city hadn't burned. The people hadn't died. A small payoff but meaningful. Ashen's eyes flickered toward a nearby console, still smoldering from the power surge. Something about the faint signals emanating from it caught the dragon's attention. Terran followed its gaze and noticed the encrypted files they had secured earlier. The logs contained undeniable proof of the faction's manipulation, the lies that had painted Ashen as a monster. Terran's pulse quickened. He had the evidence, now he needed the courage to share it. "Together," he said softly, not to himself but to Ashen. "We're going to show them the truth. All of it." The dragon shifted slightly, brushing against him, and Terran felt a strange warmth. In that moment he realized that Ashen had chosen him, not just as a protector but as a partner. They were no longer human and dragon, master and creature. They were allies facing a galaxy that had judged without knowing. A sudden vibration rippled through the platform. Terran stiffened, scanning the darkened docks. The cloaked figure had not returned, but a new signal had appeared, a faint, pulsing red light from beyond the station, deeper in space. Terran's stomach tightened. Whoever, or whatever, was out there had not given up. They were watching, calculating, waiting for the next move. Ashen growled softly, the sound more contemplative than aggressive, and nudged Terran toward a maintenance hatch leading to the upper levels. Terran followed, realizing that retreat wasn't cowardice, it was preparation. They needed a vantage point, a way to see the threat before it struck. Every lesson from the night, the chaos, the danger, the calculated attacks, had led to this understanding. Human intelligence and quick thinking, paired with Ashen's strength and adaptability, had kept them alive. They climbed into a narrow observation corridor, overlooking the vast expanse of the station and the starfields beyond. Terran connected his portable console to the station's sensors, pulling up live data. The cloaked figure's energy traces were faint but still detectable, moving toward the edge of the galaxy's mapped space. Terran's jaw tightened. Whoever it was, this was far from over. The micro payoff from their survival gave him confidence, but the larger stakes, the truth, the faction, the galaxy's fear, were still looming. Ashen's head tilted, observing the stars outside. Terran noticed a pattern in its subtle movements, a rhythm in its breathing and energy pulses. It was not just reacting, it was analyzing. The dragon could sense things humans couldn't. Terran understood, with a thrill and a chill at the same time, that Ashen was more than a weapon, more than a survivor. It was an intelligence of its own, capable of interpreting danger, of choosing allies, of judging morality. And it had chosen him. He activated the console, sending a partial broadcast to nearby systems. The files containing the truth about Ashen and the faction would begin to disseminate, reaching command posts, merchant hubs, and news arrays. Terran exhaled sharply as he watched messages begin to flow. He couldn't predict how the galaxy would react. Fear, disbelief, even anger, but at least the first steps had been taken. The dragon's reputation could begin to change. The hated flame might finally be understood. A soft rumble shook the platform. Terran's heart leapt. He looked to Ashen, who flexed its wings instinctively, molten eyes narrowing. The signal from deep space pulsed again, stronger this time, like a heartbeat echoing through the void. Terran realized with a chill that the cloaked figure was part of something larger, a network or fleet still hidden beyond the station. This was not the end. It was a beginning, a challenge that would demand courage, intelligence, and resilience beyond anything he had faced so far. Terran placed a firm hand on Ashen's scales, feeling the warmth and energy beneath. "We've done enough for one night," he said, voice steady despite the tension. "But tomorrow we fight for the rest. For the truth. For everyone who's been lied to." The dragon's eyes met his, molten red glowing like twin fires. In that gaze, Terran felt understanding, loyalty, and determination. Together they would face whatever came next. As the station lights flickered in the early hours, Terran allowed himself a moment to reflect. Humans could make a difference, he realized, through courage, quick thinking, and compassion. He had faced impossible odds and survived, not through raw power but through intelligence and empathy. Ashen had survived alongside him, not as a weapon, but as an ally capable of choice. The galaxy had underestimated both of them, and that miscalculation was their advantage. A final pulse of red light flashed across the distant stars. Terran's breath caught. He turned to Ashen. "I think someone wants to see us, out there." The dragon rumbled softly, wings spreading slightly as if agreeing. Terran's chest tightened with anticipation. Whatever was coming next, he knew one thing with certainty: they were ready. The station was calm now, but the galaxy beyond still held secrets, dangers, and challenges. Terran and Ashen had survived, learned, and chosen each other. And as they looked out into the infinite expanse of stars, a single thought burned in Terran's mind: this was only the beginning. Somewhere out there the real threat waited. And when it arrived, the galaxy would see what humans, and dragons, were truly capable of.